Hey, this is Darren from Property Prosperity. I thought I'd just dedicate this episode of my Property Prosperity Daily to Andrew Witt, who's amateur programmer, but he's come up with a novel solution trying to work out to solve a problem, basically. So he's actually from Melbourne. He's on my Facebook group called The Art of Property Investing. And he was trying to work out how long a property had been on the market for, and obviously he had a purpose for it. And so he's having trouble trying to find that information. So he then, rather than just give up, he's decided to create it himself. So he actually created his own little website, which you could actually put your own details in there. Well, the details of the property. You can go into domain, copy the URL link, paste it into his website, and it'll tell you how long that property's been on the market, which is pretty cool. So I thought I'd have a bit of a chat today about. I'm going to put the link to that website down in the comments button afterwards, so you'll be able to click on it and check it out too. So hopefully you like it. I thought I'd just have a bit of a chat about what numbers are important when you're investing in property. So I suppose the answer to that question is sometimes all the numbers, sometimes none of the numbers. It really depends on why you're investing. So like a lot of things, you really have to know why you're doing it before you even start. Because without knowing why you're doing it, then you're not going to really have a strategy in mind and a bit of a plan. And once you've worked out what your plan is, then the numbers have to revolve around that plan, basically. So example-wise, if I'm doing a property development, then I'm really just looking at the deal. What price am I buying it for, and what price is it going to sell for, and then what are the costs in the middle? It's not any more complicated than that, really. So all the market data and all, how long it's been on the market for, or what it started at and what it ended at, and all that other sort of stuff. Totally irrelevant. If it's a good deal, it's a good deal. I quite often get people ask me, where's the best place to buy? Where's the market going to go up? For a property developer, you don't care. Basically, you're trying to buy and sell in the same market. Ultimately, the goal of a property developer is buy and sell at the same time. The perfect scenario would be, I buy it one day, find someone else that's going to buy it the next day. I've lodged my application in, just wait for the subdivision to go through, but I've already had a buyer before the subdivisions go through. So I've locked in that profit straight away. And that takes away all the risk. I might have to sell it cheaper to that person than I otherwise would if I hang on and wait till the very end of the development. But I've locked in that money. The bird in the hand's worth two in the bush type thing. So as a property developer, it's all about minimizing risk. So that's an example of where the numbers don't really as far as the market numbers don't really matter. It's all about the deal itself. The suburb doesn't make any difference. Even the property itself doesn't really matter. It's what you can do with the property, how much extra value you can create with the property. So whereas if we're going to hang on to the property, if we're going to do a subdivision, we're going to hang on to the property afterwards, then that makes a totally different difference. If we're going to, say we're going to build the two houses and then we're going to sell them off once they're built. Let's say it's going to take, 9 months for the subdivision to go through and another 6 or so months to build the house. So we're talking a year and a half, maybe 2 years down the track before we even get our finished off house. So then we've got to be really clear on what's the market doing. Is there going to be demand in a year and a half's time when we finish our development? And is it going to be worth the same, or is it going to be worth more? Is it going to be worth less? As a developer, you're generally trying not to take into account increase in value over time because it's not too sure. And generally, you want to try and be relatively conservative with your numbers too, because you don't want to overestimate it and then it works out wrong. Because example-wise, if you're, let's say you're subdividing to 3 and you think you're going to get 350 and you suddenly get 300, then you suddenly lost 50 grand times by 3, which is 150 grand. So really easily the numbers can turn really quickly. And it's pretty easy with property if you're trying to work out what you think you can sell it for. You can find a few comparable sales, but there's not that many comparable sales. In that example, if you can't really find that many comparable sales and you're a bit of a trailblazer, it's probably not worth a risk, really. You probably want to do what everyone else is doing. And if it's, if you can see you can buy it at a certain price and you can see every day of the week you can sell it at a higher price and there's no risk involved, and if you can find someone to buy it off you straight away, then just do it. You've got no risk then. So then it comes down to trying to work, if we are going to hang on to it though, what's the market doing? And that's going to be things like, basically it's all comes down to economics, so supply and demand. So is there going to be a lot of demand and is there very little supply basically? So if there's lots of demand, not much supply, then you're going to expect that the market's going to go up over time. So the fact that things to work out where there's lots of demand, I suppose that's really, that again comes down to the numbers. They're quite difficult to get, to be honest, and it's harder for you to work out. But how many days things sit on the market, and that's obviously where Andrew's app is trying to tell us. How long things are on the market for, and you can try and get a bit of a judge of what the market's doing. Also, what price things started out at, what they were advertised at, and what they finally sold for. If they're consistently selling for more than what they were advertised for, you can see there's a lot of demand, and obviously the agents aren't pricing their properties very well. And if they're selling quite quickly, then you know there's a lot of demand, things get in the market, they're selling straight away, so that's a really good sign. So other things you will sort of want to look at to try and work out demand, the number of properties that are being sold in that area. And so, if there's only 1 or 2 properties sold in that area, that's not a really big sample size to say, hey, there's going to be some demand down the track. But if there's, tens or hundreds of properties sold in the area, then that's quite a few people. So you can see, and again, it's also about, the logic I say to people is, buy where you'd want to live. If you want to live there, if you're an average person, if you're not, if you've got a multi-million-dollar house and stuff like that, you're probably not your average person. But if you're your average person, you've got an average house in Adelaide. The average house is about $430,000 a year. So, try and suit the average person. If the average person can afford that house, then there's a lot more average people than there are people that have $1 million houses. Likewise, there's a lot more average people than people that have $200,000 houses. So it's not that you can't, a person can't afford a $200,000 house. They just don't want to live in a $200,000 house because of the location or the quality of the house and all that sort of stuff. So probably my advice, if you're looking for where there's lots of demand, go where there's, where most people are, which is the average price, basically. So, and then supply factors, that's pretty obviously to work out. If you know that whole area is being developed, the only way you're going to get new blocks of land come on the market is someone knocking a house down, subdividing. Whereas if you're out in an area where there's all farmland, quite easily that can be rezoned, and suddenly you've got 200 blocks of land on the market, and suddenly you've got 200 houses to compete against when you're trying to sell your house in 2 years down the track. So yeah, there's some of the numbers which are important. Again, you have to work out why you're doing this. And the other thing you come down to is, if you're going to sell the property in 2 years' time, but if you're going to rent it out down the track too, you look at rental return, and you look at what the rents are relative to the cost of the properties or the sales price, and that's called yield. And so you try and work out whether they're renting for. Hey Debbie, thanks for joining, and I noticed Sharon's joined as well, and Isaac, so thanks guys for joining, and thanks for the like. Hopefully that was you, Debbie. If you like what I'm saying, click on the like button. I really appreciate it. If you don't like it, still click on the like button because it's really cool. And if you've got a question, feel free to put a comment in the comment box because I appreciate that. I don't know if anyone's noticed my haircut tonight, but no one said anything, but it does look really good. Thank you anyway. And yes, so I just thought I'd... so that's pretty much it. So work out why you're doing it, and then you're going to work out what numbers are. If you're a property developer, you're going to buy and sell in the same market. Who really cares? It's all about what price you're buying it for, what price you're selling it for. If you're going to hang on to it, or if you're going to sell it, then it's trying to work out within that time horizon. If you're going to do a development, you're going to sell it in 12 months, 2 years down the track. Is there more demand than supply? The market's probably going to go up. But again, I wouldn't allow for that, but I then just feel a lot more confident knowing there's lots of demand, not much supply. Then likewise, if you're going to hang on to it over the long term, then it's all about supply and demand. Hopefully if there's lots of demand, not much supply, even in the short term, it's based on people's perceptions. In the long term, it's based on supply and demand. So really, at some point in time, if there's heaps of demand, the price is going to go up, and then you can't go too wrong. So hopefully that's made sense to everyone. And I'll click on I'll put in the comment box Andrew's link to his new little website he's created. Go and check it out and give him some feedback. And I'm sure he'd really appreciate it because he put a lot of work into it. So thanks, guys. Look forward to talking again soon. Bye.